Hey guys, Dr. Joe Borio, welcome to the office. Thought we'd do a Facebook Live today on your health, but most importantly on your brain activity and how your alignment of your spine, right? And sometimes it sounds crazy to people, how the alignment of the spine can greatly affect how your brain works. Now, for some of us, maybe we think maybe there's no help. But in reality, all of us can obviously benefit from it. But when you look at the ramifications of that, you know, we look at people with, let's say, epilepsy, or you look at people or children who are on the spectrum, right, who have learning disabilities, ADD, ADHD. You hear that terminology or that diagnostic thrown out a lot, right? Also, you'll hear about children maybe that have some sensory integration issues, right, where they're not processing information from a sensory standpoint. So when we look at all that, or just, you know, normal thinking of our children, you start to put that into perspective. You know, why do children suffer with these challenges? A big cause of it is that misalignment in the upper part of the neck. So here's a great study, and it's on our website, on Borio Chiropractic website. It's not something that most people would want to read because it's about 25 pages of a lot of research. But what it talks about is that, and I'm going to use a couple of doctor terms here for a minute, okay? But it talks about the role of cranial-cervical, and I'll explain what that means in a minute, junction in the cranial-spinal hydrodynamics and neurodegenerative conditions. Whew, there's a mouthful. What it basically states is how the upper part of our neck affects blood flow, cerebral spinal flow to the brain, and how it affects the degeneration of the brain. So think about that for a minute. Degeneration of the brain. So when we talk about degeneration of the brain, we're talking about dementia. We're talking about multiple sclerosis. We're talking about Parkinson's. So what science has now identified, and that's a study that was done a couple of years ago, is a clear connection, a clear representation between the upper part of our neck and how not only the nerve function flows, but how the cerebral spinal fluid flows, which can affect pressure, intracranial pressure, and how the blood flows up and through the brain, which greatly affects the function of our brain, right? And it also affects, there's a term called neurologic recruitment or neural recruitment and neural efficiency. So in other words, how hard does the brain have to work? How hard does the brain have to function? How many neurons are necessary to complete different tasks? All of those are greatly affected by how well this upper area in our neck is in alignment, right? So let's look at a couple of our charts. We'll look at some doctor stuff here for a minute, okay? That's kind of fun, right? So when we look at this over here, and we're going to look at this chart, all right? And I'm holding on to my camera here, so if we have a trauma and we're Facebook Live, we just got to deal with it, okay? When we look up here, you're going to take a look at that. There's the brain function, right? And there's that upper part of the neck. So when that vertebrae goes out of alignment, and for some of us, maybe that makes a lot of sense, and some of us it doesn't, right? But when I look at that upper part of your neck, see that upper part right here? You see the artery here? You see that first and second vertebrae? Now you think about what's up in here is your brain, right? So if this area, and I mean just a little bit, what we might think is a little bit out of alignment, when that vertebrae goes out of alignment, it's going to press or inhibit nerve function, which is going to directly affect your health, your brain function, organ function, the process of disease in your body, but it's going to immediately also affect the blood flow to the brain and or to the body, and the cerebral spinal fluid to the brain that flows all the way through your spine. So when that gets out of whack, what happens is the ability of my brain to create nutrition, which is what cerebral spinal fluid does. It creates a cushion. It controls temperature. It also controls the immune function of the brain. Your brain has a lot of lymphatics that flow through it. So all of those things are disrupted. So when you think about the ramifications of that, and you think, wow, you know, God, it's such a tragedy that you start to hear some of these diseases that are neurologic degenerative diseases, many, certainly not all, but many of those diseases, many of them, right, are directly from this area being out of alignment. Now, there's a word that's very specific and unique to chiropractors, that word is subluxation. Now, it's a scientific term, right? It's a big doctor term. But what does that term mean? That means that this vertebrae, or any vertebrae in your spine, has lost its normal alignment and mobility. So think about that, right? If that vertebrae loses alignment or mobility, that little guy right there, or this guy right here, or something down in here, right? What's that going to affect? So let's look at the spine here for a minute, right? So when we look at the nervous system, we're going to see right through here, all of these organs are directly connected to the nervous system. So sometimes it's something that we know, but we don't think about. Sometimes we know that, but we don't often connect the dots when our body's not functioning as well as it's supposed to. So what we're looking for as chiropractors is we're looking to see if there is a disruption in the connection. So real simple, let's say you got a computer in your house, right? And you're like, geez, the printer's not working really well. The first thing that most people are gonna do, they're gonna go check the connection of the wires, right? Maybe now we've got devices that use like a Bluetooth or a Wi-Fi. So the first thing you're gonna do is you're gonna go check the ability of the Bluetooth or Wi-Fi to connect to, let's say, the server, right? Or to the Wi-Fi network. Your brain and body are basically doing the same thing. They're constantly connecting, if you will, to a network. It's a hardwired network. And I have a lot of things in my office that I use to help people understand how important and vital that connection is. So when you look right here, that's basically kind of crazy, but that's your spinal cord. Isn't that crazy? So there, it's just a series of wires, right? There's millions and millions of wires communicating trillions of bits of data to the body. So you know how frustrated you get if you're, let's say you get a Wi-Fi, a cell signal. Let's talk there for a minute. You got a cell signal, and boy, you got a weak signal. You know how frustrated you get? You're trying to talk to somebody, and you're like, man, geez, I can't hear you. And there's maybe some really important information that's being conveyed in that conversation, right? That's kind of how your liver feels with a bad signal. You know, your liver's like, hey, man, I only got one bar down here, you know, of a cell signal. So what's going to happen to the liver with one bar of communication, right? Liver's not going to work so good. Ladies, let's say, you know, your monthly cycle, you know, your uterus and ovaries, all that stuff doesn't work as well. There's changes in how the hormones work, all from this area being out of alignment. So as chiropractors are specialists in looking towards where the spine goes out of alignment. So if we go to our original study that we started talking about here a few minutes ago, some people will ask me, it's a common question in my office, hey doc, how does my spine get out of alignment? Why would you say a baby needs care? For some people that sounds crazy, right? Why would you say a baby needs care? Well, here's a baby, right? And what happens a lot of times during the birth process is they're often exposed to about 100 pounds or more of pressure to the upper part of the neck. So think about that for a minute. So your baby, your delicate child, has 100 pounds of pressure that is pulled on in this upper part of their neck. So what's that going to do to the alignment of the spine, right? So let's go back to our spine here for a minute. What's that going to do to this area of the spine, right? It's going to push it out of alignment, right? So for some of us, maybe we don't think it's a big deal, but the child is going to have what? Problems with, just like we talked about, right? Neurodegenerative problems. So they've already set up a lifetime to where they're going to be very prone to having what? Maybe they're more prone to autism. Maybe they're more prone to Asperger's. Maybe they're more prone to sensory integration. Maybe they're more prone to ADD, ADHD, sensory type problems and processing, not just integration, but other forms of sensory problems that sometimes they don't even have a diagnosis for, right? Their ability to think properly, let alone you've already set up a challenge for that child later in life to be more prone to dementia, Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, other types of neurodegenerative challenges. Why? Because the research shows the immediate and critical connection between that upper part of the neck and all the other functions in the nervous system. That's why it's critical. And I mean those words specifically. It's necessary and critical and essential for all of us to be checked by a chiropractor. You know, a lot of times people think, well, I don't hurt. I don't have any pain. I don't have any symptoms, so it's not time for me to go. And I can appreciate that. But I think what we forget, and again, we know it, but we don't think about it, is disease starts before there's disease that's felt, right? So disease starts before we feel the disease. So you don't eat a bad meal one night and the next morning wake up with heart disease, right? I mean, that's a process. That artery, and that's an example we use a lot in the office here, right? That artery takes decades to plug. It takes decades to go from this to that, right? But this is where we feel it. This middle ground, right? These middle two models here, where you're starting to see clogging in that artery, you don't feel that. You feel nothing. You think you're fine. So the same idea is true with the spine. The spine can go out of alignment just a little bit. Just a little bit, what we deem as a little bit, and it's going to immediately disrupt the nerve function, and it's going to immediately disrupt the joint function, and it's going to immediately disrupt cerebral spinal fluid. It's going to immediately disrupt the blood flow to the brain, to the body. And now what's happening is that child, who often turns into us as adults, starts the disease or degenerative process, right? And then what happens? We get older, and then we're thinking, or even at that young age, they're having problems. And then we think, hey, we're going to go specialist. When in reality, we just have to use some common sense sometimes. Have I looked at that connection? Have I assessed and looked to see where this area of the spine is not properly connected? Have I checked my Wi-Fi signal? Have I checked the cell signal? How many bars? Ideally, we want brain to body. We want a full bar, right? We want full 5 bars from brain to body connection, right? But if we're losing any of those bars, you are getting sick and diseased. I think the other point in closing here is we forget your spine is a structure, so much like other parts of our body, like our teeth is a great example, where it's always under stress. So as a result, your spine's always going to go out of alignment. So when people come in and say, geez, am I out of alignment? That's kind of like getting up in the morning and saying, geez, do I have plaque on my teeth, right? I mean, I'm always going to have plaque on my teeth, not because I did something wrong, right? I have plaque on my teeth. Why? Why do I have plaque? Because of daily use. So our spine, if we even survive the birth process, right? Our spine will always go out of alignment, just like our teeth will always build up plaque, and therefore it always needs to be cared for. It needs not to be treated. The spine always needs to be looked after. It always needs to be tended after. It always needs to be cared for. And we forget that. We often get stuck into the idea that if it's not broke and our idea doesn't hurt, then don't fix it. But nothing could be further from the truth. If you ask people, how long are these meant to last for, right? Most people say a lifetime, right? Most people will say that your teeth are meant to last for a lifetime, right? But you forget 2 things. One, only if you care for them. Some people have learned that hard lesson. They haven't cared for them and they don't have any teeth anymore, right? So that's number 1. And number 2, so is your gallbladder. So is your liver. So are your tonsils or your appendix or, all those organs. It wasn't like God got the teeth right, but couldn't figure out other parts of your body. He's not sitting there next to Archangel Michael going, geez, I got the teeth to last a lifetime, but I can't quite figure out the appendix, or I can't quite figure out the gallbladder, right? I mean, all of those parts are meant to last you throughout this journey here on earth, right? But if we're not taking care of them and we're not tending after them, they're going to get sick and diseased and they're going to fail much quicker. My last analogy would be this, and it's something that I want you to really think about. And that is this. If you look at this body right here, I like to look at it as this being like a refrigerator, right? So think of this here. I'm pointing to my chest and my body, my organs. Think of it as a refrigerator, right? And if I pull the plug on the refrigerator, right? If I pull this power plug right here, now that can happen from a subluxation, right? That's going to happen from the spine being out of alignment. I don't even feel it yet, right? Don't even know that it's there. But I pull that out of alignment, what's going to happen? Everything in the refrigerator is going to what? It's going to rot. It's going to deteriorate, right? It's going to spoil. And believe it or not, that's what happens to us. When we cut that connection from subluxation, from something as simple as a slip or a fall or birth that we think is so natural and everybody goes through it, right? When I misalign that vertebrae, what we view as a little bit, it's like unplugging the refrigerator. It's like not offering proper preservation to my liver, my lung, my kidney, my back, my knee, whatever. Those body parts will start to get sick, they'll start to get diseased, they'll start to fail. So when I talk about will your brain work better, you know, we talk about this study, right? This study clearly demonstrates the critical connection between the upper part of your neck, right up here, and the function of your brain, your ability to think, and the health of your whole body. So here's my question to you. When is the last time you've been to a chiropractor? When is the only time you've been checked by a chiropractor? You know, has that doctor examined you? Have they measured you? Have they taken x-rays of you? When is the last time? So if it's been a while, it's kind of like saying it's been a while since I brushed my teeth, right? Right? What's going to happen here? What's going to happen in those teeth, right? So what's going to happen in your spine, organs, and nervous system? Right? If it's never been, think about how scary that is. Think about if somebody said, hey, I'm 40 years old, I've never brushed or flossed my teeth, but you know what? I saw this guy, Borio, he's a dentist, and he offered $37 to come in. I think I'm gonna go get my teeth checked out. You know, what do you expect to see? You know, you've never brushed them, never flossed them, never taken care of them. There's gonna be a lot of what? Deterioration and degeneration, right? So what are we gonna see in your spine? You know, so the time to start is now. And I think sometimes we forget that urgency, that need. You know, if we don't nurture it, if we don't take care of it, if we don't tend after it, you're either getting sicker or you're getting healthier. So if you're not looking after it, it's getting sicker. And just because you don't feel it doesn't mean it's not getting sicker. The guy 5 minutes before the heart attack didn't think he had heart disease, right? The man or woman who went to the doctor to get a health screening that found out they had cancer didn't think they had a tumor. The person who went for some blood tests to check out for some diseases didn't think anything was wrong until the doctor came back with some horrible diagnosis, right? Remember, symptoms are the last stage of the disease. Symptoms are when your body says, I can't take it anymore. I'm no longer able to sustain this level of physiology, this level of higher taking care of my body, right? So this is what we do in our office. I'm in Cicero, New York. Certainly not the only chiropractor in the world. So I'm in Cicero, New York. So if you're, you know, within a proximity of our office, I would certainly encourage you to hit the link above, call our office, and we do an initial checkup for you, $37. So what does that include? That includes an exam. We give you a little tour of the office, which I can do for you right here, right? So we give you an exam. We got our Halloween decorations up, pretty cool. It's kind of spooky in here, right? So we're going to give you a tour of the office. We're certainly going to have a discussion with you. We're going to find out where your body's not working as well as it's supposed to, certainly. And then we want to take some measurements of your body. Now, we're going to use chiropractic measurements. In other words, we're going to look at blood pressure and heart rate and oxygenation, certainly. But we want to look specifically to see where the spine is not functioning as well as it's supposed to, okay? So I'll bring you in here real quick. I'll walk you through the office here, a little fun. So this is the exam room. So we're going to want to look inside you, right? Because we want to look where you're subluxated. We want to see the spine, and we want to see exactly where it's out of alignment. So number one, we want to take some x-rays, and I think that's critical and important. We're going to use a thermal graph here. We're going to take a look right in the spine. We want to look for areas of inflammation. So you know what's nice about chiropractor? No needles, right? We don't have prescription pads. Doesn't mean drugs are never necessary, but that's not what we do, right? We're looking to see where the body, which is intended to work really well, we're looking to see where the body's not functioning as well. One of the other things we do is, which a lot of times people think is real neat, we actually check your weight scale. So we're going to look down here, if you can see that. We've got a couple scales. We don't care about your total weight. We care about the difference. You know, if I weigh 200 pounds, I should be about 100 and 100 pounds. So if I'm leaning 20 pounds heavy to that side, right? Think about that. What am I doing down here? What am I doing to those organs? What am I doing to those body parts, right? And what am I doing to those wires, those nerves, right? So what's going to happen to my body? How well is it going to function or not function? One of the other things we do, which is real critical, simple, easy, non-invasive, but we want to look at your posture. You know, the posture is a window to the spine, right? So when we get a chance to look at inside you here, right, with an x-ray, and we want to look at your posture, we're looking to see where the spine is bent. Just like a mechanic will look at your car and put measurements on it to see where it's crooked, where it's out of alignment, where it's bent, right? So those are the tests that we're going to do as a chiropractor, and then we're going to sit you down in our office and we're going to go over what we found. And we're going to be able to identify specifically and exactly where your spine is out of alignment. Where is the Wi-Fi signal down? Where are your bars of cellular connection down? And we're going to tell you, hey, you got 1 bar here, you got 2 bars here, you got no bars here, unfortunately, sometimes is the conversation, right? And then we're going to be able to start the process of getting you to heal, right? We're going to start that process of reconnecting these areas so that the liver, the lung, the kidney, the ovaries, the prostate, your large intestine, your bowels, your bladder, your heart, your lung, how important are all these parts? We're going to be able to actually start having that conversation and start caring and tending after the brain's ability to communicate to those organs so your body can work the way it's supposed to. So we're like a dentist. Think of us as like a dentist of the spine, and it's essential. So we're clear. 2 things I always want to clear up with our last few minutes here. Number 1, every man, woman, and child should be under chiropractic care. And sometimes it sounds odd, right? But step back for a minute. If I was a dentist and I was doing a video live on Facebook and I said, hey, listen, every man, woman, and child has to brush and has to floss their teeth. Everybody needs to, right? You know, here it is. Here's my toothbrush. Everybody needs to brush and floss their teeth. No one would look at that odd. No one would think of that strange, right? But I'm doing the same thing. I'm essentially taking a toothbrush, right, to your spine. I'm looking at the spine and I want to tend after it, right? I want to look to see where there's misalignment. I want to look to see where there's bad connection. I want to look to see, if you will, where there's plaque building up or subluxation building up in your spine. So number 1, every man, woman, and child should be under chiropractic care. Number 2, one of the complaints I hear of going to a chiropractor is, hey, once you go to the chiropractor, they want you to go forever. That's 100% true. So we're clear on that too. You don't have to do that at all. You can do whatever you want to do, right? You're free to do whatever you want to do. But in reality, let me ask you this. I'm a dentist, let's say. Again, I'm using that as an analogy. You can use a person who teaches nutrition. You can use your personal trainer. Let's say you get to a point of a certain level of health nutritionally. Does somebody go to you, my God, Joe, you look great. What have you been doing? Well, I've been eating really good. You know, I've been doing some really good nutrition. I've been eating a lot better. Oh, wow, that's great. That's awesome. Great. And well, now you, thank God, you don't have to keep doing that anymore. You want to go out and, get some ice cream and have some cannolis, and which, not to slam cannolis because I'm an Italian boy, but you follow what I mean? Like, am I going to start having that conversation with you because you don't have to do that anymore? Are you going to look at that kind of strange? Let's say, for example, I'm a dentist and I say to you, hey, listen, we took care of teeth. We brushed, we flossed, we did some drillings, we put some veneers on there. Everything's looking great. I'll tell you what, good news. Teeth are looking beautiful. So at this point, don't brush, don't floss, don't take care of them. And when they get rotten, come on back in, we'll take care of them again, right? That doesn't sound like good advice. So the same thing with chiropractic care. Remember that a chiropractor, whether you use it that way or not, obviously you're free to do what you want to do. A chiropractor's job is to nurture after your spine and nervous system. We're here to take care of you, not to treat you per se, though sometimes that kind of starts our relationship because some people have lost their health. Our overall job is to take care of you. And by taking care of you, short term you're healthy. What happens to your health long term? Long term you're healthy. So what's going to happen to the length of your life? Gets longer. What's going to happen to the quality of your life? Gets longer. That's what we do as chiropractors. And again, starting or ending where I started off here, when we look at that study, it clearly demonstrates the need, the requirement, the necessity, the essential need to have you and your family checked for subluxation, most importantly in that upper part of your neck, and not only that, to be taken care of on a regular basis, right? On a regular basis. So your body works good short term and works good long term. Your brain works better long term. Right? Your imagination, your creativity, your inspiration, all of those things get better when you're under regular chiropractic care. That's what chiropractors are here for. So give us a call in our office, 315-699-1441, extension 10. Lisa, Amanda, Bobby, Joe, they're my team. They're on lunch break right now. They're going to be back in a couple minutes. They'd be more than happy to address any calls, any questions. Certainly love to set you up for a checkup and see where your spine is not healthy, where your family is suffering from subluxation. Number 2, maybe you've listened to this video and you're in California or Michigan or Mexico or Canada or Australia or wherever. Here's a great message. I love chiropractors. They're probably only the only people I like hanging out with. right? I love them because they think like me and I think like them. And as a result of that, we tend to have this common ground. So we're chiropractors that love to hang out with each other. So knowing that, I'm connected with some phenomenal, and I mean phenomenal, I mean chiropractors that are passionate and more than competent. They're masters at their craft of what we do as chiropractors and in adjusting the spine and identifying and analyzing for subluxation. So I can put you in contact with anybody you want across the globe, essentially. So if you're watching this, you're like, Dr. Joe, you're in Cicero, just like a dentist, right? If you live in some town and, you move, you're going to find a new dentist. So I don't care where you are, give our office a call. You're not bothering me. Nothing's beneath my dignity. I'm more than happy to talk to you, connect with you, find a chiropractor so you and your family could benefit and live the life that you were designed to live. Because that's what chiropractic is about. It's allowing you to live the life that you're designed to live, that you were meant to live by our Creator. So thanks for joining me. We're going to try to do these once a week. I've got so much scientific research I want to share with you. Today, again, was on that upper cervical connection and that upper area of the spine and that upper area of the brain and how it affects our health of ourselves and our children and why every man, woman, and child should be on a regular chiropractic care, okay? Guys, reach out to us on BorioChiropractic.com or on our Facebook page. You can put any links or questions for me below. Give us a call in the office. And like I said, we're here all day today, here all day tomorrow. Love to talk to you. Love to get you in the office. In the meantime, have the healthiest of healthy days. Have a wonderful, blessed, beautiful autumn day, and have a scary Halloween. Like I said, we got our scary decorations up, so it's kind of spooky in here. And I'll talk to you guys next week.